Hey, what's up guys? So today I wanted to do a full review taking a look at the RF 50mm f1.8, and this lens is Canon's mirrorless replacement for the old versions, I guess, of the EF 50mm f1.8. And this optic, whatever the current version of the 50mm f1.8 is, has been for a long time really the best-selling lens for Canon, and that's what their goal is with this RF version of that optic. And I've had the lens for about a month now and been able to use it in a few different settings and kind of get a good feel for it. And so today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of this lens, strength and weaknesses, who it might be for, and give you my thoughts and a full review on this lens. So as far as build quality and handling goes, this is the smallest lens available for the RF mount at the moment, smallest and lightest. And it is made of the same type of plastic that all of the other RF lenses so far have been made of, which for me is not a problem. I think the plastic so far has seemed very durable. It does also have a metal lens mount, which is going to help with durability, but there's no weather sealing in this lens, and it also doesn't come with a lens hood. So because this is an RF mount lens, that means first of all that it is only going to work with RF mount cameras from Canon. So that means right now the RP, the R, the R6, and the R5 are the only options to use it with. But because of that mount, we do have the ability to use the ring that is on this camera as a control ring to set with different settings in your camera, so you control things like ISO, aperture, shutter speed, or whatever you would like to control really. But on this lens specifically, we only have one ring, and there's only one switch, and that chooses whether you want to use that ring as the control ring or as your manual focus ring. And the problem is, on the lens, we don't have any switch to choose between autofocus and manual focus. So if you do want to manual focus with this lens, you have to set that inside of the camera's menu, and that can be a little bit slow if you're manual focusing a lot, and certainly if you're switching back and forth a lot. But again, this is a very light lens and easily the most compact way to be shooting in the RF system. So as far as photography goes, this is a 50mm lens, and for me, 50mm, if I had to choose one specific focal length for photography, 50mm for me would be the most versatile, because you start to get a little bit of compression at 50mm if you want to have that in your shots, but it's still not so telephoto that you can't step back and get environment in your shots if you want it. So you can do a lot with it. And with this optic having the f1.8 aperture, it also gives you a lot of options to get bokeh, that blurry background if you want it, and to also get better shots in low light if you're in that type of situation. So it is a really versatile lens in what it can do for this price point. The autofocus performance in this lens is actually really good. It keeps up with eye tracking and tracking autofocus of the R series bodies. And it's not a macro lens, but with a close focusing distance of 30 centimeters or just under 1 foot, you can still get pretty close to your subjects. At the time of recording this video, Lightroom has not released any lens correction profiles for this lens, so all of the images that you're seeing in this video are without any lens corrections applied. And when we're talking about image quality here, we have to kind of keep it in context, because if you want to compare it to the other RF lenses on the system that Canon has brought out, especially the RF primes, it's really not going to even come close to holding up. Canon with their RF lenses has definitely set kind of a new bar for the sharpness that you can get even from a budget lens like something like the RF 35mm. This lens is not going to deliver on that level. However, if you keep in mind the fact that this is a $200 lens in the US right now, I don't think you're going to find a lot of lenses at that price point, if any, that outperform it in sharpness. So I don't think sharpness and image quality is a liability here. I actually think it's really good for the price point. Color reproduction, also really good for the price point, and the images that come off of this are overall just nothing that anyone can complain about when you're paying this price for a lens. If we compare it to the EF version of this lens, I think this lens has a little bit of a boost in terms of performance when you talk about sharpness, The bokeh cleans up a little bit more quickly. But if you're more interested in seeing the differences between the two, I have a video that I did specifically about those two lenses that I'll link right here for you to see. So again, in comparison to the other RF primes that Canon has out right now, I don't really think it compares in terms of image quality, but this is still at a much lower price point, even from the other budget prime lenses that Canon has for the RF mount. And when we just look at the image quality and performance that we're getting from this lens at this price point, I think it's hard to beat. And I think that's why this lens and this type of 50mm f1.8 optic is often so popular. So when we talk about this lens's performance in video, the first thing that keeps coming up is the fact that there is no image stabilization in this lens. And at 50mm, it's definitely going to show the little micro jitters that you have in your footage if you're hand holding something in video. I will say that obviously all of the R series cameras have some form of video image stabilization with the R and the RP. That's two forms of digital image stabilization, and then the R5 and the R6 add sensor stabilization to that. So it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but if you're looking for something that you're going to be shooting a lot of handheld video with, this might not be the best choice for your first lens for doing that, and I would probably suggest the RF 35mm for that. If you're interested in seeing the differences, I also made a video comparing those two lenses, and I'll link that video here. But when it comes to image quality, it's the same story here as what we have with image quality in photography really, which is for the price point, decent sharpness, good color reproduction, not at the same level of image quality that we see from the RF 35 and 85 and other primes on the RF system, but for the price point, I don't think it's anything that anybody's going to have complaints about. Again, not your best option necessarily for handheld video, but if you're doing video where it's locked off on a tripod and you have enough room to get back from your subject, I think this is actually a really good option for the price point. So who is this lens for? Well, again, it's the smallest lens on this mount, and if you're looking for something that is small and compact, you can't beat it for the price or the size. And especially for photographers who do stuff like street photography or travel photography or something where they want to have a small footprint, pairing this with a mirrorless camera is going to give that to you, and again, at a really nice price point. The image quality in photography is very good for the price point, and I think having this as a lens that you just kind of keep in your bag all the time because it doesn't take up that much space is kind of a no-brainer. I will point out again the fact that there's not a whole lot of controls on this lens, and manual focusing is not the greatest experience on this lens, so if that's something that you do a lot and you're looking to do that specifically with this lens, it's probably not going to be the best option for you. I would also say that if you already have the EF lens, it's not really going to bring anything that would need you to upgrade to the RF version unless you just really want to get rid of the adapter. You will save a little bit of space there if you're not using the adapter with other EF lenses already. If you're coming fresh into the RF mount and you don't have other lenses that you're bringing, you're not using the adapter, I think this is an easy first choice for your first lens. And again, looking at the price and what you get out of it, it's hard to say no to this if you don't already have a 50mm f1.8 that's already doing the same job. I think if you are looking for something that is a great budget starter setup, this lens with something like the Canon RP, with this camera and lens combination, I think that's a great, relatively budget-friendly way to get into full-frame photography. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this lens so far? Have you had a chance to use it? Are you looking at maybe purchasing it? What would you use it for? If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in buying this lens or any of the other gear that I've talked about in this video, I will have affiliate links in the description down below at no extra cost to you. If you purchase through those links, you'll help get a little bit of income coming into this channel so that I can continue to make videos for you guys. Thanks, and see you.